Hello and welcome into another episode of the Diggin' Denver podcast, a podcast for the people, by the people. I'm your host, Derek Bettis, and you can find me on Twitter at DigginDerek. Make sure to go follow the team site over there at Diggin' Denver on Twitter, and make sure to make it on over to the website, www.diggindenver.com, to catch all of our articles, keep you up to date on practice and what's going on all around the Nuggets team. If you don't already, make sure to follow us on Instagram as well. Make sure to go click that follow button on there so that way you can take a look at any updates and news that we may have as far as pertaining to the site or any content that we're putting out. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and make sure to always go check out all the content you may need at diggindenver.com. Tonight's pod is going to be a nice little quick recap, some news highlights and notes on the San AntonioSpurs game where the Nuggets lose another heartbreaking back-to-back loss on a very eerily similar situation that found Will Barton wide open from the three, taking yet again another last-second shot. This one, however, was not near as controversial as last night's game, or I guess by the time you'll be hearing this, 2 nights ago against the Boston Celtics, where Malone and the Nuggets had one timeout to use, controversially didn't call it, went ahead and let Will Barton travel the length of the floor for a last-second shot. A last-second heave on there. A lot of critics on that one. There's a lot of opinions on to call a shot, to not call a shot. Of course, it was well documented and reported that Jamal Murray and Malone both stood by the decision at the end, with some of the players maybe looking back and saying, hey, we should have called that timeout. Regardless of your feelings on the situation, that game was lost. This one was lost as well, so that counts as 2 losses in a row on a back-to-back. However, against 2 teams that were slated to win heavily over the Denver Nuggets, the Nuggets showed heart and determination and grit in both games. Some really good things to get into tonight. And it was just a well-fought game. Sloppy at sometimes, a little ugly here and there with the offensive pace, and sometimes getting into a little bit of rut. But Jamal Murray once again showed out. Darrell Arthur got his first start of the season tonight, was able to contribute in some really meaningful minutes. Malik Beasley, Torrey Craig all did an excellent job. Gary Harris as well, shooting good from the 3 tonight. And in fact, the entire Nuggets squad was shooting well, so not the problem tonight. However, there were some things. San Antonio did chew up the offensive boards. DeMarcus Aldridge got his, as well as Pau Gasol with this smaller lineup that Malone and the Nuggets went to. Added some benefits, but definitely the Spurs and Greg Popovich, of course, going to take advantage of that when he can and definitely punish the Nuggets down low. So, like I said, lots of stuff to get into tonight. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for the show. Today's show is sponsored by Red Wing Shoes in Greeley, Colorado, home of some of the finest footwear needs in any industry. Safety toe, soft toe, and casual lines around. High-quality handcrafted boots for tough working conditions. Red Wing Shoes down in Greeley, Colorado has been a family-owned store for over 40 years and has had a legacy of great customer service and excellent footwear selection. Go on down and check out the guys down at Red Wing Shoes in Greeley, Colorado. Mention this podcast and get 10% off. Thanks a lot to our sponsors, Red Wing Shoes, Greeley, Colorado. Work is our work. Without further ado, let's dig in.
Syllable slasher, insurmountable mic gasher, quick to Vic with intent, you gate crashers, constant late passes, styles escape passion, beats that we present make you hate like a slave master, hardcore, heated and hot, controlling venomous plots, we be the cream of the crop, so keep on in with your mouth, we'll entertain your brain for 3 minutes and change, ain't it strange your fame is 3 minutes and change, let me finish explaining, break it down like a layman, all the stuff that you're saying, ain't
so let's just get right into it. Back-to-back losses on a back-to-back road game, the second loss in a row for the Denver Nuggets against one of the West's toughest teams in the San AntonioSpurs, who are currently ranked 3rd in the Western Conference, just behind a Golden State and Houston Rockets team, in a game where the Nuggets were slated to lose heavily as well. San AntonioSpurs seem to just have the Nuggets ticket when it comes to games played over there at the AT&T Center, dating back all the way to 2012. The San AntonioSpurs have pulled off 10 straight wins, marking this as the 11th straight win over there at home. San AntonioSpurs, of course, the best home record at home with 21-4. Phenomenal team in general. Of course, one of the greatest coaches of all time in Greg Popovich. His ability to use a system but has proven track record before and implemented with different guys getting in and out of the mix there. Losing some Hall of Famers, but still able to stay competitive in a very dangerous and lethal West, of course. The San Antonio Spurs are a pain in the side, as is a ever-aging Manu Ginobili, who just went ahead and threw the dagger a couple times late in the game tonight. We'll make sure to get into that a little bit later. But this was a tough one. This was a well-fought game from the Denver Nuggets. It was good to see that the Denver Nuggets didn't come out feeling sorry for themselves, looking too much, heavily relying on the Celtics game to dictate what happened tonight. Although, they're exhausted, they're traveling, they're in another city, they had a heartbreaker the night before they came out, and I thought showed some good energy in certain spots of the game. The first unit came out with a nice offensive flow to it, good offensive rhythm. They fell into a couple ruts, especially in the second quarter, late in the second quarter. However, Jamal Murray was able to push the pace, stay aggressive, and went ahead and got some big contributing minutes from Darrell Arthur, who got his first start of the season so far, as well as Torrey Craig. Malik Beasley chipped in as well. And I do believe that the Nuggets starting unit actually all ended up in double digits, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yep, that's correct. So you had Will Barton with 11 points, Gary Harris with 17, Nikola Jokic 11, Jamal Murray 15, and Darrell Arthur with 10. Darrell Arthur really chipped in. Emmanuel Mudiay had himself a half in the second half of the game with 14 points in just 13 minutes, 4 assists, 2 rebounds. Just a absolute ridiculous stat line in a very Emmanuel Mudiay way. Of course, we know the kid can play ball. It's just not consistent. However, great to see him when he comes out. I think he's actually been playing well the last few games as well. So it's been good to see him back in the rotation. Malone was actually asked about Emmanuel Mudiay and his role with the team as of right now. Malone did go ahead and mention that Emmanuel Mudiay is back into the reserve point guard role for this team as of right now, and he's been playing well. So if we can continue to get some steady contributing minutes, cutting down the turnovers and some of the Emmanuel Mudiay things that he can do that aren't as positive as his offensive feats, his passing ability, and his ability to finish strong at the basket at times, he's a viable point guard. Received a lot of hate in the past, but good to see him playing well as of late. So we're just going to hop right into it and get into the first. I thought the Nuggets, however, they were able to stay aggressive tonight, get some points in the paint, got 48 points in the paint total to the San AntonioSpurs 54. Definitely relied a lot on the outside three-point shooting tonight, and we're shooting it well. Ended with 43% from the three-point tonight on 10 of 23. So the shot was working well. In fact, they came out nice and strong, hit the first 5 three-point shots that they actually took as well. They were lighting them up from early as well, which is nice to have it going for you, get you kind of in that momentum, get the offensive flowing a little bit on some jet lag, tired legs. However, that did end up hurting them later on in the game when they started to settle a little bit, do some more one-on-ones, lots of one-pass shots again, similar to the Celtics game. A lot of similarities between these two, a lot of parallels. Harris was part of that big run early with some really big shots from the three, which was nice to see. However, San Antonio was just as hot. It was a shootout in the beginning. Some defensive paralysis from Torrey Craig, as well as some of the Nuggets' defense in general. Were able to put out some good energy, a lot of motion on the defensive end for being a little bit tired. So I thought that was really nice to see. San Antonio Spurs came out, though, firing just as hot as the Denver Nuggets. In that first quarter, the Nuggets shot 6 from 11 from the 3, and the Spurs shot 3 for 4. So although the Nuggets were able to outshoot them, San Antonio definitely find themselves shooting at a nice, efficient pace from the three-point line as well. And that's just a tribute to Greg Popovich, like I was talking about, and a system that works for him, as well as getting players on his team that fit their system. So you have a lot of inside out, pass around, high motion. Something that the San Antonio Spurs have always been is their ball movement, their ability to cut in and out. You had a play early in the first where they had a drive, kick out, dash, drive, kick out, and then to wide open 3. And that's just the type of way they do it. On a tired night, you could see the Denver Nuggets falling behind fairly quickly on the defensive end as far as getting out late to the three-point shots. And that's going to happen sometimes when you have such a hard-fought game, and then on a back-to-back, especially where the Nuggets are not good at. So, San Antonio is just a marquee team when you talk about ball movement and making the defense work. And speaking just about more on San Antonio is Manu Ginobili. Back in the day when I was a child, I didn't enjoy the San Antonio Spurs in any type of way, shape, or form. In fact, I despised Tim Duncan. Not for any reason, just he was just a boring player to me when I was a kid. Of course, as I got older and more mature, I definitely came to appreciate his game. I'm not saying I'm the biggest Tim Duncan fan in the world, but appreciate what he was and his character as well as played. Just a vet, just a true way of a true example for these young guys on how to play basketball, especially when you see the way the game's going now. So definitely came to appreciate. But one of my favorite players that I actually did like for them, Tony Parker has been okay but Manu Ginobili. I've always been a giant fan of Manu Ginobili. Just an old man with just a ton of game still. His athleticism is sneaky for a 40-year-old. His pump fake is phenomenal. Kept getting Torrey Craig and Trey Lyles up in the air. And then going into the basket, finishing strong. His athletic ability at the rim to finish, too, is impressive. And he's just patient with his game. He's not trying to be overly aggressive and assertive on the offensive end. But because of his skill set, his high intelligence, his IQ, the way he's patient with his offense is just something beautiful to see. And he always tends to surprise you when he's out on the court on some of the moves that he'll pull sometimes on even Torrey Craig or, there's a couple spin moves, finish strong in contact on a reverse with some English on the off the backboard and just some solid finishes. So Manu Ginobili is always impressive to watch. I don't know what's going on over in San Antonio's water, but you have Tim Duncan who just continued to get better and better later on in his career. Same thing with Manu Ginobili, maybe not getting better, but definitely age not slowing them down a whole heck of a lot. Still able to really get out there and ball and put on a show and performance. Really appreciated how in the beginning parts of this first, they were really, really making it a big issue to go to Nikola Jokic and initiate the offense through him. They were putting him in lots of positions to operate from the high post, lots of DHOs and pick and rolls from the top, found guys rolling, had Jokic going down low, got DeMarcus Aldridge in a little bit of foul trouble early in the first half. I wasn't able to quite exploit that like Jokic is able to do. As far as getting him in even bigger foul trouble later on in the game, but got him quick, definitely take it to him. And I appreciate how they were able to get Nikola Jokic the ball as many times as possible throughout any one possession. The more times that kid touches the ball, the higher possibility you're going to get a really good shot. There's a couple times where actually San Antonio played solid defense for 20 seconds, and the Denver Nuggets were then able to come away with the last second shot. It was actually a good shot on them. And that's like I said, anytime you can the more you can get Jokic involved in your offense with your DHO, especially working out of where he's the most lethal in the high post, it's really just going to spell a lot of really good things for your offense. So kudos to them. Michael Malone said that he wanted to go back to that free flow and onto offense going through Jokic. And in the past 5 games, 6 games, however long it's been now since he's made that comment, he's been true to his word, and we've been seeing the offense start to get back to it. Still not where it needs to be, but you saw in that Celtics game just some really good offense the game before that as well. Just a fantastic dedication to sticking to his guns as far as going to that Jokic free-flowing offense. So kudos to the Nuggets for that. Aldridge was hot in this one. Couldn't anybody stop him. Darrell Arthur had a hard time. Trey Lyles was getting picked on by both Marc Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge. Aldridge was just hitting shots. I mean, I believe 4 of his first shots actually had hand in his faces, were hard turnaround shots, not super easy, weren't wide open, and he was just nailing them all over the place. LaMarcus Aldridge caught fire, had himself one heck of a game tonight. In 35 minutes, he's able to jack up 30 points, 1 assist, 5 rebounds, shot 14 for 23 from the field. Even had a block in there, 100% on the free throw line on just 2 attempts, and had a game high of positive 15 on the plus-minus rating. So definitely an efficient night for him. Something that the San AntonioSpurs, Greg Popovich, and LaMarcus Aldridge apparently had a little meetup where they really talked about LaMarcus Aldridge being the focal point of this offense. Something that when he first got traded there, you could kind of assume that would happen. But this many years now into the relationship with LaMarcus Aldridge and the Spurs, it's come to their attention that he definitely needs to be that point. Hastings has made a comment about some of his insider buddies that he got some information for. We're talking about how the San Antonio Spurs are a tough team to beat when LaMarcus Aldridge is hitting, and when he's not, they tend to struggle finding a true scorer on their team. I really may not be a true scorer, but as far as a point guard goes and a lot of potential, I really like Dejounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs. He's long, he's lengthy, good ball handles, can shoot, quick, athletic. I think he's going to be a heck of a point guard and can really thrive in the Popovich system. Seems like he's really been given the keys as Tony Parker's taken a back role to Dejounte Murray, really putting in the time to develop the kid, and there's no better to do it than in a system like Greg Popovich's. So excited to see what that kid's going to do. I think he'll be a solid little point guard for that team going on in the future. We were, of course, blessed with another Jokic sick, disgusting no-look pass. The kid has eyes in the back of his head, and these type of passes are what get people pumped up. Brandon Vogt, who you guys may remember, used to contribute to the site just for a little bit, actually made a point about how a dunk can get the team pumped up and amped and excited. That's what Jokic does with these passes. He can really turn the game with some of these no-look passes. Trey Lyles wasn't expecting it. The entire arena was not expecting it. Hastings and Marlowe even made a point, and I don't even know if anybody in this arena just saw what happened. It was so slick, so fluid. Didn't even have, I mean, he saw you when they had the slow-mo and they're showing the camera angle from the baseline. Nikola Jokic caught vision of Trey Lyles from his peripherals, drew two defenders on him, and that was enough to go ahead and let him know exactly where to place the ball, how far to pass it, and just got just a gorgeous pass to Trey Lyles, who's getting a little upset down there, taking some bumps and some contacts. But the kid's ability to that can't be taught. That spatial body recognition and the touch that he's able to throw off is just out of this world. His playmaking ability, he sees things that nobody else sees. I didn't even see that pass coming in. I didn't even know he saw that was open, but somehow the kid did. And that kid threw that no-look pass straight into Trey Lyles for a nice, easy bucket. So always a little treat for the Nuggets Nation when we can get one of the Jokic no-look passes. Tied it up at the end of the first, 32-30. And a tight contest all game long. And there was a stretch there where San Antonio took advantage of a fatigue Nuggets at the end of the half going into the third quarter. But other than that, it was a tight contest all the way throughout. And I think that's probably what's most encouraging about this game is the fact that after a tough performance, the top efficient defensive team in the Boston Celtics in the East, then you have the second most effective defense in the league in the San AntonioSpurs, be able to be competitive, able to make it a contest, show heart, and really gain some valuable knowledge and insight in these games. Moral victories don't count. Moral victories suck. However, it was really great to see this young team come out and perform against some top-tier teams. Unfortunate because this does count as 2 back-to-back losses, and the rest of the schedule does not get any prettier. It's only going to continue to get harder and harder and harder to get one of these wins. I think just for a morale booster would have been so nice after taking that L against the Boston Celtics, especially in the fashion that it did. You see Will Barton at the end of tonight's game, after that shot, just grabbed his head and just took off sprinting dead ahead straight for the tunnel. You could tell that one hurt. RJ from the other end of the bench was jumping up and down, shaking that towel, and the ball went in and out. It was a solid shot. Yes, Trey Lyles could have shot it, could have taken it into the paint for a strong finish. Barton actually also had the opportunity with 3 seconds left to Jamal Murray, possibly, but then it could have been a turnover as well. It is what it is. It was a shot that was taken, and it was a wide open shot. I personally think that, well, we'll get into that. I'll save that for the end, but definitely would have been nice to get this W. Just 2 crucial heartbreakers at the end. Malone actually, per Dempsey, put out a little tweet there about post-game comments and quote, "Really proud of the team. If we continue to play like this and compete and find ways to stay in games, we're going to be a really good basketball team, especially when we get fully healthy," end quote. Wilson Chandler was out tonight dealing with the migraine and maybe possibly some other issues. Gary Harris, you see, got hurt there for a little second, rolled his ankle. Nikola Jokic, once again, did his absolutely nobody around him, puts his foot on the ground and rolls an ankle somehow, still unstable from that injury that he sustained a few months back. And so this team is pieced together. It's obviously still out with Millsap. This team is still pieced together, still not 100% healthy. And the Nuggets are still finding ways to win, put together strong performances, even on losses. So definitely some positive signs here. You can look between the silver linings. Moral victories, like I said, don't count, but there are positive things to look through the lines. Not always easy to be optimistic after 2 tough losses, but still believe in this team, and there's still potential for them to make this a tough little run here. You have the Clippers, who just traded Blake Griffin. You have the New Orleans Pelicans, who the Nuggets are creeping up on. Unfortunately, Boogie just got hurt. You hate to think of it in terms of benefits for the team, but that team is substantially less competitive without a Boogie Cousins, who is really starting to play good there in the last few weeks before his injury. So definitely still some promising things to look forward to with this Nuggets team. Emmanuel Mudiay in the second was able to get up some really good shots, had some strong takes to the hole, had a couple of Emmanuel Mudiay finishes as well where he ends up on the floor. I don't know. I'd like to see what the percentage is to Emmanuel Mudiay's drives to the times he ends up on the ground. It makes no sense to me, but I swear it has something to do with his ability to finish. I don't know if that's a focusing on the rim. He's trying to, expect the contact and get the foul, so he's trying to sell it or what it is. But I've never seen anybody in my entire life end up on the floor as often as Emmanuel Mudiay does. With such a strong body and his ability to elevate and take contact and finish strong at the rims like he'll do at times, it just frustrates me how he ends up on the ground more often than not. However, you heard his stat line earlier. In 13 minutes, 14 points, a bunch of assists, a couple rebounds. Had a spectacular game. So really got that rolling in the beginning of this one. Malik Beasley also put in some exciting minutes. Had a really, really nice block on Patty Mills. Had that awesome baseline cut where he got the dish in, slammed it on Pau Gasol, I believe, coming on the back end of him. Had some really meaningful, energetic minutes. Really, really enjoy seeing this kid play, and it was really cool against the Celtics game when Kai went over and talked to him. It seemed like they had some pretty insightful words with each other, which was really nice to see. The kid has mad potential. Always love seeing him play. Spurs really ate up the offensive glass in this quarter. The fatigue, I believe, had a giant part to do with this. Nuggets seemed to get out-rebounded on offensive paint oftentimes, especially against bigger, smarter bigs who understand, how to place themselves for the most optimal possibility to get offensive boards. When you have smart players like LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol in there, they were definitely able to chew up the offensive boards in this quarter. Solid defense, too, from that second unit of Emmanuel Mudiay, Will Barton, Torrey Craig, Trey Lyles, and Malik Beasley as well. The offense was fine. They were able to get a couple of shot clock violations in here and make the San Antonio Spurs settle for some really tough shots too. So on a rough back-to-back game, they was able to see some energy, and the Nuggets found some success in going to the small ball lineup with some fresh legs and using Darrell Arthur, Torrey Craig, Malik Beasley in there to really turn things up, and Emmanuel Mudiay as well. I thought that was an excellent call on them, and that's something we're going to continue to see until we can get this roster back fully healthy. But it worked. The small ball lineup definitely worked tonight. The offense from the first half carried on over here. Lots of motion, lots of good shots as well. Inside out, like I said, Emmanuel Mudiay was taking in some nice drives in the dishes there. And there were certainly times during this, and in fact, when the first unit came back in after that second unit had a pretty decent start to the second. That first unit really got in a hard lull. A lot of settling for outside shots, a lot of one-on-one shots, and they got away from what they were successful with in the first quarter there. But overall, I would say the offenses continue to stay pretty free-flowing with the minor spats of some stalled or lulled offense throughout the game. And once again, here is when the fatigue settles in. The Nuggets were actually taking open shots. They may have been outside shots and they were settling for them, but they were open shots. Now, whether San Antonio is willing to give that to them because they know they're tired, or whether the Nuggets were just taking that open shot because it was there, it wasn't falling, and they weren't looking to change it up at any time soon. There was a couple times where a few possessions came and they were early in the shot clock, even though wide open, early in the shot clock, settling for that outside shot, and they're just missing. They're short, they're off, they're to the side. When your legs aren't under you and you've been playing hard for 2 nights in a row now, this is going to happen sometimes. Staying aggressive and getting into the paint, focusing on your points in the paint as well as getting to the free throw line, which San Antonio is actually one of the best at, not allowing opponents to get to the free throw line, is really important. That's when you can really take advantage of getting the break, getting some extra rest in there with the free throw shots, and making sure you're getting some high percentage shots as well. But with a team like San Antonio, there's only so much you can do to get to that free throw line when they're so stingy on the defensive end. Really, really like Torrey Craig's energy, his continuous motor, and how he's able to follow up after he did a lot of the high energy cleanup shots that you see Kenneth Faried do typically when he does get to play. Like I said, just a lot of cleanup shots, just a lot of high energy motion, always continue to run and follow through with the play and not giving up on it. So I really like the way he played defense here. Had some really, really nice defensive plays late in the shot clock a couple times. That helped the bleeding stop a little bit. Nuggets only hit the 4 of 17 last shots ending in the second quarter. So like I said, just a little rough spree by that first unit, but some positive things on the defensive end, especially from Torrey Craig. At the half, the Nuggets found themselves down 55-60, which was actually really impressive. It was very encouraging to see that they were able to make it quite a game. Had a lot of contribution from that small ball lineup. Darrell Arthur in getting his first start of the season, Clocked in as 19 points with the 10 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, positive 6 on the night. Really just tallied up the whole board. And that's impressive because he has not got a lot of playing time. So when you come in rusty off the bench and you're able to perform like that, contribute some high energy minutes, that was really nice to see from Darrell Arthur. Always a fan favorite. Good to see him out there and get some minutes to play around. And the bench was able to contribute as well, which was super helpful. Torrey Craig, you had in 19 minutes, he was able to put up 6 points, an assist, 6 rebounds, shot 3 for 7 from the field, a block, a steal. Very similar to Darrell Arthur, ended with a -2, but had some really meaningful, impactful minutes. Malik Beasley had 4 points, 2 rebounds, 1 block. Trey Lyles had 7 points, 1 assist, 7 rebounds, 1 block, and Emmanuel Mudiay led the bench with those 14 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, 7 attempts shooting from the field, and ended with that positive 6. So the bench was able to come out and really perform really all game long, but especially did a good job in that first half. At the end of that first half, Nuggies were shooting 46 from the field on 8 of 17 threes, 19 rebounds, and 14 assists there. Getting on with it in the third, this was one of the Nuggets' rougher quarters. I believe this was their worst quarter. Nope, it was actually their second best, but not followed too closely behind the second and fourth, where they only had 25 and 23 points respectively in the quarter. In that third, they ended with 26. But Nuggets came and opened up with 2 missed threes. San Antonio opened up with Aldridge attacking the smaller matchups. Hitting some tough shots once again, like I said, some turnaround shots, really going at Darrell Arthur and Trey Lyles and really having his way with them down there in the post. The fatigue really started to settle in. It was pretty apparent here. Everything was short. The defense fell off on the other end. Like I said, they were falling behind further and further, quicker and quicker. As you know, after that first option, the second option, the guys were already falling almost a whole step behind. And that's as expected. You know, still a lot of heart and good energy, but definitely fatigue is settling in pretty hard here in the third. And San Antonio is just like a really well-oiled machine, right? Just like a good old solid, whatever you want to call it, a good old Chevy motor, just constantly putting, just a constant cadence to their offense, their motion, and how they continue to attack the basket. Lots of, like I said, inside out, north and south, east and west, kick out, swing passes, really starting to make that defense work and lag just enough to take advantage of some really nice shots or inside the points in the paint there. And it really just started to take pace here with the Nuggets getting a little bit cold from the offensive end and San Antonio just staying consistent. They were able to find themselves some decent shots. They only scored 20 points in that quarter, their lowest one, but I thought there was definitely a spurt where San Antonio was able to find themselves cutting that lead down just a little bit more. However, you did see Jamal Murray bounce back with this one, staying aggressive, making sure to find his shots on the floor. For the night, in 30 minutes, he racked up 15 points, 1 assist, 6 rebounds, shot 4 from 11 from the field, had a block, a steal, 100% from the free throw line with a -9, but thought he had an excellent game. So he stayed aggressive, stayed attacking his, and he is going to be one of the people that we need taking these big shots. We've seen him emerge in the last few games, whether he's taking the last shot or not. He's made some really clutch threes later on in the game when the Nuggets really needed him, and tonight was no different. There was a stretch where the Nuggets had gone cold. San Antonio had found themselves in a little hot spree, and Murray came with a nice little 3, and that really reignited the team, got the energy reinvigorated. The defense once again stepped up from there. And so to see him make those big shots and take the responsibility of having that much confidence to make those big shots for us down the end, I think really is going to correlate into a closer for us down the stretch, something that we need to focus on. I believe we'll always need to have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in there. Obviously, of course, spread the floor with the Torrey Craig for the defensive purposes, who can hit the 3, maybe Trey Lyles and Gary Harris too. But Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic need to be in there at the end of the game, and they need to have the ball in the hands. So far, Jamal Murray has just proven himself time and time again to have such a beautiful shot, and his confidence never wavers. And Nikola Jokic, of course, Logan and I have had this conversation before that what's you have a couple seconds left and it's the game-winning shot. Who are you going to? Nikola Jokic, right? We both agree on that one. He believes that getting the ball down to Nikola Jokic in the post is going to be one of the best way to go, and it's hard to argue with that when Nikola Jokic is able to exploit so many mismatches down in the paint with his abilities that he possesses in the supreme footwork, as well as his size advantage for the people who can hang with him, the quicker big men that may have better footwork than your average NBA big man. So good to see him keep it going in there, really hit that big shot for us and came back. He then follows that big shot up with a solid possession on defense. He was in the face of, I believe it was either Patty Mills or Manu Ginobili. I can't remember exactly who it was. They took the shot, and he was right there in their face. They missed that shot, pushed it down to the other end to Gary Harris for a wide open layup. And you really saw, like I said, after that shot and after that defensive possession, as well as the outlet pass down to Gary Harris, you really, really saw that energy pick back up in the third. And so that's exciting to see that our young kids can ignite such a turnaround during the game. In the fourth, Emmanuel Mudiay continued to shine in his offensive effort, had about 2 or 3 take-ins on Paul Gasol, some really nice solid finishes. And when he's playing like that, it's always going to give that unit a nice little flair. The second unit that tends to have some hard time finding an offensive identity in that game. So surprisingly, Emmanuel Mudiay has been one of our better shooters from the three-point line and found himself to be a little bit more of a scoring point guard. That's not necessarily going to be your facilitator, but has the ability through his attacking the paint to really get some wide open shots, not only for himself, but his teammates as well. Manu Ginobili in this one hit an absolute dagger. Nuggets were coming from behind, getting a little bit closer, and Manu Ginobili with about 2.5 minutes left just nails a three-pointer that really, really deflated, took some air out of this team, and that was a pretty pivotal point. And with about 40 seconds left, he hit that other little floater there. Needed that defensive stop. Could have been an even closer game. Had a little leg up on that possession, and he just nailed that little 14-footer. In 20 minutes, he only had 9 points, but had 4 assists, 1 rebound, 1 block, and then with a positive 5. So Manu Ginobili really just out there contributing to his team in a quiet but meaningful way. And then this is where Jamal Murray, once again, finds the ice in his veins and hits a huge three to bring them back within 2 with 31 seconds left. The Nuggets need that shot, and that's what I'm talking about. When he has the ability to shoot that like that, and that confidence never wavers, and his shot is so beautiful and pure, the kid needs the ball in his hands to make that possibility. And in games like this, against teams where we're slated to lose and we're able to make it a competition, give him that ball so he has that, he gets used to that energy, that vibe, and that situation of intenseness and how to still come in through clutch. You know, if there's anybody on this team that has that quote-unquote Mamba mentality, it's Jamal Murray by far. And so get that ball in that man's hand and let him see what he can do. Let him see what he can create. If anything, it's a great learning lesson, something that I think Nuggets need to explore a little bit more. Of course, this is when we get into the last shot of the game. Manu Ginobili misses a shot down on the other end with Gary Harris on him on defense. They outlet pass, and kudos to the Denver Nuggets and especially Trey Lyles, who was able to fight for that rebound on a long shot, long miss. Tapped the pass in over, outlet pass down over to Jamal Murray. I thought Jamal Murray made the right call in bringing it out, not forcing it on him. He was only going up against Manu Ginobili, but had a couple guys trailing closely. Pulled it back out, went free throw, extended out to the 3, went in for a little drive, kicked it out to Gary Harris. Gary Harris went in for a little drive, saw Trey Lyles sitting out there, and I almost thought it was going to be a turnover, honestly. I got a little nervous, but he was able to fling it across the paint to an open Trey Lyles, who, you know, personally, in mind, this is what I was going to get into a little bit earlier in the podcast. Personally, I would have liked to see Trey Lyles shoot that. Trey Lyles is leading this team, and I believe he's like 20th or 22nd last time I had checked in the NBA for three-point shooting percentage. He has the ability to make that shot. He's tall, and it was Patty Mills that was closing out on him. He flew right past him. Hastings made the point, or Hanslick made the point of he wished that he would have drove in after Patty Mills flew past him, did a little step back out, took that nice little shot there. An excellent point as well, and I think that could have been a very viable shot too. That's not the decision he made. He ended up kicking it back out to Will Barton, and the reason why I don't like it as much is because Trey Lyles, like I said, with his height, can shoot right over Patty Mills. If he goes in for a couple dribbles and then a step back out, he has a wide open court to himself with nobody around him. And so that's why I would have rather see Trey take either one of those, or he even could have taken it to the hole and went for a strong finish. You know, the shot would have been a better one, but he had 3 options. With Will Barton, he had 2 guys flying out, closing on him. He had a tighter window to shoot that shot with 2 more guys flying out on him as a distraction. They weren't that close, but when you have 2 people flying out on you like that, I just would have liked to seen Trey Lyles take the shot, but the shot was in and out. I mean, it was not a bad shot. He was set. He was right there open at the top of the three. Will Barton can shoot those shots, and it was nothing, absolutely nothing like the shot with the Celtics where he flies cross court, jacks up a terrible shot with the wide open Torrey Craig down low. Lots of emotions and opinions about that. We're not going to get into that one. Twitter was pretty angry with Malone on that decision against the Celtics. It is what it is when you are able to compete against some of the best teams in the league. You just have to remember that this team is so young. These kids against these type of teams, with tough defense and great offense and all-star point caliber point guards like Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum, who's going to be just a phenomenal player as well, Jaylen Brown. When you have these teams that they're going up against, Al Horford, you have your vets in there as well, and they're able to come close to this game. No, maybe that wasn't the best shot. Maybe they should have called the timeout. And yes, I would have liked to seen the ball in anyone else besides Will Barton's. As soon as they outlet pass to Will Barton, you knew the shot was going up. There's actually a lot of spiff a lot of disagreements against Will Barton and his shot selection and how, quote unquote, selfish he can be. A lot of Nuggets fans are starting to label him as a selfish type player. And that's because he looks for that's his skill set. And that's definitely something that's won us games as well. Tonight, it was nothing about selfish. It was a wide open shot, but I would have liked to see it in just about anybody else's hands. And that may be wrong. Will Barton is a heck of a player. I used to be one of his biggest advocates until you saw how much he needs the ball in his hand, and that doesn't play necessarily to his team's strengths. I do believe that he is a positive influence on this team. I believe that he's a positive contributor to this team. I don't stand with some of the critics in their stance on Will Barton. However, I do agree, and he is going to force more shots than anybody else on the team. Maybe some bad shots, but he also has that ability to score in bunches and to uplift the team in a way that not a lot of other players on this team have the skill set to do. So either way, like I said, we'd rather have Trey Lyles shoot the ball, maybe Barton even pass it to Jamal Murray, which would have been a tough pass with 3 seconds left. But that's not what happened. Tonight, the Denver Nuggets came out, showed some heart on a back-to-back on a road game, which the Nuggets are not good at. Showed the heart, stayed in the game against a veteran, solid San Antonio team after a tough fight and battle against an emotional loss against the Boston Celtics. You gotta read between the line, appreciate the game for what it is, enjoy the ride, quote unquote, trust the process, if you will. Nuggets lose it 104-106, and that's gonna wrap it up for here at the Dig in Denver podcast. We do appreciate you guys. Make sure to go on over to iTunes, leave a rating and review for us. We always appreciate you guys' time and spending it with us. Make sure to go head on over to www.digindenver.com to go check out tonight's article on the post-game recap. Have another great article from one of our other contributors on there as well about the tough stretch of games that are coming up. So go take a look at the content. Go follow us on Instagram at DiggInDenver. You can holler at me on Twitter at DiggInDerek, and make sure to handle the squad's Twitter account at DiggInDenver. I'm your host, Derek Perez. Thank you guys for joining us. Till next time, let's dig in.